Hey everybody, Tony Harnell here from TNT. You are listening to or watching Nashville on the Rocks.
Welcome, metalheads, to Nashville on the Rocks. I'm Lisa Karkos, your host, and today I am thrilled to introduce our next guest, the talented female vocalist of the progressive death metal band Entheos. Hailing from Des Moines, Iowa, she has been pushing boundaries in the metal scene from a young age, carving out her own unique musical path. Her relentless dedication to developing her sound has led her to become a standout figure in the world of metal music. Formed in 2015, Entheos quickly made a name for themselves in the metal scene with their blend of technicality and aggression. Comprised of former members from Animosity, Animals as Leaders, and The Faceless, the band has continued to push the boundaries of their genre with each new release. Their latest album, Time Will Take Us All, released in 2023 under Metal Blade Records, further solidifies their position as one of the most exciting acts in modern metal music. As we dive deeper into the world of Entheos and get to know our guest on a personal level, it becomes clear that her passion for music and dedication to her craft shines through in every performance. Currently on tour with As I Lay Dying and Chelsea Grin, Entheos is a band you do not want to miss. Please join me in welcoming the incredible vocalist of Entheos, Chaney Crabb. Hey, Chaney, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I am super excited that you can make it today. I've been looking forward to this now for a while since we put it on the books, and I'm just so excited that you're here. Thank you for making the time.
I'm really excited to be here. Like I was telling you, I think that this is a genius idea for a podcast, and I'm so excited to do it. I mean, you're mixing two of my favorite things. I love having a good drink, and I love talking.
I love that.
It's the Italian in me, I guess. I talk a lot, and I love doing it. So I'm stoked to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh my God! Thank you for coming on the show. I want to say those are excellent. That makes me feel so good. And you're Italian?
I'm half Italian.
You're half Italian?
Yes.
Girl, there's like no Italians in Nashville.
Yeah.
Aren't you Italian, babe? Half Italian?
Yes, I'm half Italian. That's why when you said that,
okay.
I was like...
That's amazing, yeah.
Because coming from New York, it's a totally different story.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving down here, I made a joke. I was like, what if like there's no Italians down there? Ha ha. And then there wasn't. And it was like...
I know I can't say that I've met many. I think the last time I met an Italian was at the Lacuna Coil show that's where I saw you, right? The Lacuna Coil show. Yeah,
yes.
So I met Christina that night. So that was the last Italian that I met.
And she's like a true Italian.
Yeah, that's a real Italian.
That's a real
Far
Italian.
more Italian than either of us.
Yes,
so.
absolutely. Oh my God, that's too funny. Was that your first time meeting her?
It was my first time meeting her, and
shit.
I've listened to Lacuna Coil for 20 years. No joke. Like, Coma Lies changed my entire life.
Yes.
I still listen, like I've forced Navene, my husband, to listen to Coma Lies countless times. In a Reverie was one of my favorite albums as well. So
oh my God.
That show was super surreal for me because I remember riding the bus to school, like when I was a freshman in high school, listening to Coma Lies. It got me through so many moments of my life. And like Christina reached out to me a year or so ago and told me that she was a fan of my screaming, and we tried to meet when I was in Italy, and we just couldn't make it happen. But the fact that I got to see Lacuna Coil live for the first time in my entire life and meet Christina and have a conversation with her, it was just like I had to kind of pinch myself. And she's such a kind person. You know, I think that don't meet your heroes. That's a thing that people like to say, but if Christina is one of your heroes, then absolutely meet your heroes because she's amazing.
Shit. That is so cool. I'm so stoked about all of this right now. I just can't believe it. It's like mind blown about everything. I want to talk a little bit about your background and kind of have you tell your story about like how you got involved into music. So, I mean, I've done a little bit of research on you. So I've listened to other interviews with you and I've read different articles. So, but for the people that don't know, like you started out singing when you were like younger, like what, 12 years old?
Yeah, I started, I was screaming when I was 12.
That's
and
crazy.
I don't remember a time in my life where I wasn't a singer.
Okay.
Like if I am thinking back to like a moment of this is when I realized I want to be a singer, like that doesn't even exist for me because music just, it feels like something that is innate for me. Like I always just had that passion. I remember my grandma or my mom had these little Christmas ornaments for the tree and it was like a little drummer boy and I just remember staring at that like I want to do that, whatever that is. I didn't even really, I couldn't even really fathom what that meant at that point, but I was like, I just had such an interest in that. And I was in swing choir when I was in middle school and I was in chorus and I had like a lead part in Fiddler on the Roof, the musical.
Oh my gosh.
So from there, I think having an interest in all of that stuff, I just happened to kind of fall into metal because I started going to local shows when I was in middle school, about 12 or 13. I started hanging out with people who were into metal and I really started discovering it through like compilations that like CD mixes that people would make for me. Like this guy had a crush on me when I was in like 7th or 8th grade and gave me a metal collection CD, and that's kind of I just started falling in down the rabbit hole because of a cute guy.
Did you ever go out with him or did you just dig the music?
We did. I think we went to I think we had a fling for about a month when I was in middle school,
and then she just took the rest of the
still
CD.
Friends to this day,
good.
actually. Yeah, I still love him to this day, but yeah, so that's kind of I just fell into metal through people that I was hanging out with, really.
Yeah,
like those are the people who intrigued me and I became friends with. So
that's such an interesting thing. And I've jumped so far ahead, guys. We're talking to Chaney Crabb, but do you still go by that name?
I do. I'm not changing my last name.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And
Chaney Copperweiss. It doesn't have quite the same ring to it. I've been Chaney Crabb for so long that I'm like, I don't think so.
You're keeping it, right?
I'm keeping it.
It's an identity thing. And you are the lead singer of the band Entheos.
Yeah.
And I just love your band so much.
Thank you.
Oh my God. So I think you should keep your name because like I feel like
I'm keeping it. I made up my mind.
Yes. And you have a podcast and your podcast is, and I can't pronounce Navene's last name.
Copperweiss is his last name. So it's Copper Crabb.
Copper Crabb.
Yeah, his last name, I think it looks really hard to pronounce, but it's his whole name, actually. Yeah. Navene Copperweiss. We both have weird fucking names. Who knows how we ended up together with those? But yeah, his name is really, it's just...
That's okay. My maiden name is Canervis.
Oh,
so I'm Lisa Canervis. And then this is Daniel Carcos. Yeah. So people are like,
you just made it sound real uncool, babe. Come on. Help me out, would you?
Well, so I was like, okay, I can be Lisa Carcos, but then...
I think that's a way less of a mouthful. Well, I mean, you probably were relieved when you changed.
Yeah. And the funny thing was people were like, you could hyphenate it. I was like, Canervis Carcos? Like, what are you trying to do to me? I was like...
People keep trying to get me to do that too. Crab Copperweiss. And I'm like, no. Do you also, I just don't want to go through all of the bullshit that you have to go through to get your name changed. Like people don't know how
all right,
much
babe, you're off the hook then.
What people are going through to get their names changed in this world. Like
it's a lot of work.
I'm not, I just don't like giving myself extra homework.
Extra homework. Yeah. It's like 30 pages and hours of your time. It's like a full-time job for a week. You got to make phone calls and talk to people you don't want to talk to.
And then I have to get a new social security card. It's just like, it's an endless can of worms that I just don't feel like.
This conversation is not going my way. I swear to God, this is so funny.
I've had the same conversation with him.
Okay, babe, you're off the hook, babe. It's fine. Okay. All right. I believe you now.
Yeah. I told him, I said, listen, it's Facebook official. That's all that should count. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
And I put it in print. I'm printed everywhere as Lisa Carcos. And so I'm like, it should be, yes. But I love the name of your podcast. I think that I think it's great. And I think that, I just think that the fact that you are like, you have your own podcast and you have that with your husband and you're in a band, you know, with your husband and you do metal, like that's so exciting. And
yeah, I can't get away from that guy.
No.
It's like, jeez, we should start another business together. I mean, God.
Oh my God. You
Husbands are sticky, aren't they? It's like, she's...
You could do some like home decor.
Yeah, I'm sure we will at some point, you know? Why not?
Yeah, maybe it could be like metal themed or something like that. That would be hilarious.
I was thinking the same thing, like a goth metal themed home decor. That would be. I think we're onto something here.
I think that could happen.
Yeah, totally.
Business ideas all around. So I have a question. So you're from Iowa.
Yes, I'm from Des Moines, Iowa.
And that's where one of my favorite bands is from, SLIPKNOT.
SLIPKNOT. Yeah, I mean, I was going to get to the SLIPKNOT part. That's definitely... SLIPKNOT was just... They were like popping off as I was coming of age in middle school. So they had really started to blow up maybe 4 years before I started getting into the local scene. But they were still a small enough band that I would see Corey at local shows that I went to when I was a kid.
That's so cool.
Back when he wore that like Jack Skellington beanie, he would wear it to shows.
Oh my God.
Particularly this band called Face Cage that I was really into. And you know, the Slipknot runoff was definitely there. There was a guy named Anders Colsafini, who was the original Slipknot vocalist. He was in a band called On a Pale Horse that played a bunch of shows around Des Moines when I was a kid. And then Donnie Steele is one of the original guitar players who was in a band that I really loved called Kill Pact. And he went on to another band called Upon Death's Arrival. So the Slipknot influence when I was a kid coming of age in the local scene, kind of before I started playing in my own bands in the scene, like the local shows that I went to.
Sure.
The new metal Slipknot thing was all around us. Like everyone kind of had they would wear like, they would paint their faces or have blood coming out. You know, they wanted to be theatrical in a way.
Sure.
There was also a 35-inch Mutter was another band that was around in that time that had kind of a similar thing to Slipknot going on. But it was a really exciting time when I was a kid to be a part of a local scene, because I think that everyone saw the success of Slipknot.
Sure.
And everything blew up. You know, there was another local band called Index Case that was kind of getting theirs around that time. That's like my favorite Des Moines, Iowa band. Or they're from Indianola, but they're my favorite Iowa band of all time, Index Case. Cool. And so it was just really exciting and it was really inspiring.
Yeah.
Because I listened to national bands, but when you go and watch local bands play, like people who are from where you're from, who are kind of close to your age, and you see them finding some sort of success within the local scene, and then also on a national level, you really get this idea like, I could do that. Yeah. Because national bands seemed so far away from me. The internet wasn't prevalent. It was just message boards, really, back
AOL.
then. AOL, away messages. You know, I'd use all of their lyrics as away messages. But but it just really made me feel like I could do that. And seeing all of those local bands really made me fall in love with metal and fall in love with being a screaming vocalist. Because like I said, I always knew that I wanted to be a singer, but it was when I started seeing all of these bands that I was like, that's my place. That's where I belong. I belong in the metal scene and I belong being a screamer. And it was just like, it was such a cool time to be a part of the Des Moines metal scene.
How did you make that like connection to screaming? So did that happen around the same time? Like you started going to shows and then you tried to like scream, or did you kind of do that first? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm just kind of wondering if there was a jump or if it was natural.
I was going to shows and then I tried to learn to scream. I mean, it wasn't really, I don't know if it was really a jump. It was kind of like the natural progression of things. I never made this huge decision like I'm turning my life around and becoming a screamer. It just kind of naturally felt, because it was like that was where my influence was coming from. I was into heavy bands, so I wanted to be a heavy singer. I wanted to incorporate singing, and that's why it's kind of so weird to me that I didn't sing on a record until the one that we put out last year, which is Time Will Take Us All. But I've always been a singer. That's why it was always so weird to me that people only associated me with being a screamer, and it still kind of is weird to me because I started singing, and I've always sang in the background. But in forming Entheos and with our music, it was just I didn't really find my place as the also singing vocalist of the band until the last record, when we really, Navene and I wrote that record on our own.
Yeah.
So we really tried to emphasize focusing on putting parts in that I felt comfortable singing over, because I'm, the stuff that I like to sing over is more like melancholic type stuff.
Sure, more vibey.
Exactly. I'm not like really, I wouldn't be a good singer in like a band like Periphery, let's say, or like a super active, like more, I don't know what you would really call that. They're like a gent rock kind of band. It just wouldn't be my thing. Like, I'd be a better singer in a doom band.
Okay. So
that's kind of more where I thrive. So we purposely started writing music that sounded like music I would sing over, because that's what I write over, If you give me like a Periphery or any given like kind of band like that song, I would have no idea what to do over it, just because I'm not that kind. That's not my forte.
I see what you mean. Yeah, that makes sense. So it fits perfectly. Listening to that record, I will say that it goes. It's so we were talking about it because we were listening. Dan and I were listening to it, and it just felt like it was so much more. Like it had a lot of layers to it.
Yeah.
And you're just a fantastic singer.
Thank
so
you.
You can scream great, and you're a fantastic singer too. So
and what's really cool about you're saying it was the last records when you started using more of your singing voice with it. It really is a great contrast of the different parts and probably emotions of what you're writing about, right? It just kind of
absolutely.
It's like an event change. Like when you're looking at a stage production, it's like the curtain drops and it's a new set. And it's just a really cool contrasting part. I thought that was really interesting.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Those are the kind of like metal bands that I gravitate toward. Like Opeth is a great example of that kind of thing, I think. And they're one of my favorite bands of all time. I really like a good screaming and singing contrast.
Sure.
That can kind of vibe and, prog out, and you can just get stuck in the Contortionist. I don't know if you're familiar with the Contortionist. They're a great example of that.
Just want to give a shout out to our friends at Happenstance Bourbon. These ladies are fantastic, and they are a Nashville run, women-owned, women-founded bourbon, and I just really like them. So I just really wanted to give them a little shout out. So.
And their bourbon is delicious.
Their bourbon is delicious.
All right.
So good.
So if you see it, just, give it a try, guys. How long were you in Iowa for?
So I lived in Iowa until I was 20 years old. I'll step back a little bit. I was like playing in house bands. I didn't start playing actual shows in Iowa until I was about 17 years old.
Okay.
The first band I played shows with was called Prevail in the Hail of Gunfire.
That's cool.
And then I was a part of a couple of bands in Iowa. So there was Prevail, and then By These Hands, and From Citizen to Soldier is the last, probably the band that most Iowans would remember me from. That and Prevail. But so I moved to California when I was 20. How old am I? Okay, I was 22 when I moved to California, and I moved there because I had met Navene.
Okay.
And Navene is from California. He's from Santa Cruz, California, but we moved to Los Angeles together because he was in a band called Animals as Leaders.
Yes.
And who are fantastic, amazing. And they were all getting a house together in LA. So we all moved in together, and that kind of began like the craziest year of my entire life. We were kids, and we were having so much fun. We had all Hav and Tosin and Tosin's ex-girlfriend Kalela. They were from DC, so they were moving from DC to LA Navene was from the Bay. He was moving from there to LA. I was from fucking Des Moines, Iowa. So experiencing the greatest culture shock of all of us in that house. But so, you know, we moved to LA together, and we didn't have to have jobs. We were all just, I went on the road with Animals, and I did their merch on their first headlining tour.
Oh, that's
That was my
awesome.
first national tour. And, you know, so we were just kind of like living it up in LA, having a blast.
That sounds
and
great.
partying. Yeah, it was one of the best times of my life. Like, I'll just remember that year forever, because it was everything was so bright and shiny and brand new. And I wasn't like jaded about LA yet. You know, I wasn't like, wow, I kind of don't like this place yet. But, yeah, man, it was just like, we would go to, Steve Aoki had, I don't know if he still has, but he had a club there called Dim Mock. And we were getting really into like dubstep and drum and bass and that kind
cool.
of stuff together, all of us. And we would go see, you know, Skrillex when he was just starting to blow up in like a 200 cap room.
Wow.
So it was just a really, really cool time.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds like, yeah, that is quite a jump going, I would imagine, from Des Moines to LA.
It was totally bizarre and wild.
Yeah.
Like, I was just really green. I was like this nice little Midwestern kid who wasn't that fashionable, and like moved out there, and I, you know, to be with my cool boyfriend, and, you know, because I was in love with this guy, and I just felt like there was an air, maybe in the scenes I was hanging out with in LA, of like, if people couldn't use you as like a ladder to success, then you were totally disposable to them. Like, they didn't really care.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like, I was just doing merch and living with my boyfriend and having a blast. I wasn't like someone who could help anyone get ahead. So that was a culture shock to me. Just the California attitude is much different. Like, I don't want to say that people aren't friendly in California, because they are. It's just a different way of being friendly. So as opposed to in Iowa, where everyone wants to talk to you everywhere you go, it's kind of like Nashville. Like,
Yeah.
everyone in Nashville is really friendly, really great manners and stuff. And LA, people aren't as outwardly friendly. So it was a bit like, I got kind of depressed for a while. Like, I told you I did my first national tour that summer, doing merch for Animals as leaders. And right after that, they went to Europe, because they went on tour with Deftones in Europe, which was
wow.
insane. But I stayed home for 6 weeks by myself. I was in our house by myself. And my best friend came to visit for a couple of weeks, but most of the time I was by myself, just in a house, not knowing anyone in LA. And I got super depressed. I was like, I have a ton of friends in Iowa. Like, I had a whole scene. I was in bands. I went to shows all the time. What the fuck am I doing? Like, my family doesn't live here. It's really weird.
Yeah.
And I got through that, but it was a really strange, like, end of the year for me.
Really strange transition.
Yeah, it was a strange transition, but over time I got more used to it, and I just came to love California. And at this point in my life, I like am half Californian.
Yeah.
So
So you were there for so long.
I was there for so long, and I really came of age there. You know, we started the band there, and so now looking back, it's crazy that I went through that, but I see that I had to go through that in order to become who I am now. You know, I feel like it made me even more independent than I already was. And
sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, there are just a lot of things that you learn about yourself when you're alone and left up to your own devices, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I had the same type of culture shock. I'm from upstate New York, and I moved to New York City for about 14 years. And I remember going there, and I felt, like you said, I felt green. Like, and everybody around me just knew different things, and I had to let go of some of these preconceptions. And, you know, I really kind of grew up overnight over there, and and everybody there was wicked smart and cool and like cultured, and they listened to cool music, I thought. And I don't know, it's just a really strange thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally felt like that about LA. I was like, wow, I'm not, like I said earlier, I was like, I'm not that fashionable. I don't really know that much. Like, I know about metal, but is that really that cool that I have all of this knowledge about metal? No one here thinks that's cool. You know, so I just thought everyone around me was cooler than me. They were all like, everyone works out and they're all in such great shape and they eat well. They know everything about health. And I just felt like everyone knew all of these things that I didn't know.
That you didn't know.
And I was kind of adapting.
Yeah.
So it took a minute for me to feel comfortable in my own skin when I was living there, but it definitely happened. And now I'm, like I said, I'm really grateful for it.
You know what? I remember when I was in New York, whatever, I was that guy that everybody knew was new. You know, all the people like, that guy will give us money. Hey, you know, there's like, and I'm here, I'm giving money and blankets to everybody. And like, you know, I'm the sucker, you know what I'm saying?
You had that
They can
smell
tell.
on you. Yeah, they could sniff it on you.
Yeah, they're like, oh, fresh blood, you know?
Yeah,
I learned.
absolutely.
So you've been with Navene a lot longer than I knew.
Yeah.
So that's also kind of like a coming of age thing, because it sounds like you had a partner with you, you know, to share, you know, your music, but you're growing up and then living in a new state. I'm assuming that you both kind of had, you know, your own like scene develop over time, unless, you know what I mean, like in California.
Yeah. I mean, so from LA, Navene and I moved to Santa Cruz, which is where he is from. That's where he grew up. His mom lived there. We were sick of LA. He had quit Animals as Leaders and he was like pursuing EDM. So we moved to Santa Cruz and that was much more chill. Santa Cruz is it's right on Highway 1, right along the ocean. And it's a kind of beach wine country town.
I would be very chill there too.
Oh yeah, you would love it for a little while until you realize that nothing's really going on there, you know?
That
So
makes
we would
sense.
see like maybe 1 or 2 metal shows a year because that's how many came through.
Oh, wow.
But so yeah, we had a decent scene of friends in Santa Cruz, but it's nothing like it is in Nashville. But we did start the band in Santa Cruz. Like I said, Navene's from there. His first band, Animosity, the guitar player of Animosity, Chase Frazier, lives in Santa Cruz. So we would hang out with Chase, and there are a lot of bands who have come from there, like Decrepit Birth and Archaic and Inanimate Existence. So there was a decent metal scene there.
Yeah.
But it's just not as many people, and Santa Cruz is kind of landlocked. It's landlocked by mountains.
Okay.
So you have to go over Highway 17 to get to San Jose, and Highway 17 is on a mountain. So, and it's very like swervy and one of the scariest highways I've been on in the United States, really. So you're not really trying to like go over it all the time to get to the city to see shows.
Sure.
So there's a decent scene there around us and stuff, but
It's not as accessible as you'd like it maybe to be.
Yeah, not at all. But it
makes
was
sense.
great. I mean, I'm really grateful for the time that I spent in Santa Cruz, because it's like now it made me appreciate what I have now and what I had in Iowa even more.
Has anybody ever reached out to you to sing on a completely different project?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I actually have a project that I'm kind of working on right now, which anything but Entheos, I have to be honest, I have such tunnel vision. Like I'm just that kind of person. If I have a band, which Entheos, you know, it's my job at this point. So most of my attention is dedicated toward that, and it's very hard to peel me away.
Sure.
But I am kind of working on like a dancey, like synthwave type project. I'm very interested in doing that. And
That sounds cool.
I've even like written some solo material that's far more doomy, or like I would say it's in the vein of like maybe Emma Ruth Rundle or Chelsea Wolfe or Marissa Nadler, that type of stuff, because that's like my domain of favorite. You know, I like
Sure.
grungy, doomy, ethereal vocal music is my favorite. So
dig
yes, people have reached out to me to do it. I'm just really bad about working on stuff that isn't like my main thing, because
that makes sense.
yeah, but I would love to do, I'm sure I will at some point do a project like that, but I don't know when, because Entheos, we just, with Navene and I being in the band together, it's like we never stop writing.
Sure. That makes sense.
So like the chance to do something like that, it's as much as I want it to be there, it's just rarely there for me.
Yeah, you need like, you know, twice the amount of hours in a day if you were going to do something like that.
Exactly.
The most like recent album that you guys have just put out, I feel like is just incredible.
Well, thank you.
Now I know that Navene does a lot of the writing, and you did and so you guys did this together. Is this something that was being done over COVID?
Yeah,
started.
So Time Will Take Us All. It's kind of an interesting story because we did start it over COVID. We actually started it before COVID, and it was when we still were like technically a full band. We still presented as a full band, I guess you could say. And then we kind of had like a come to Jesus moment together in our, like one of our guitar players, Travis, decided to tour with Intervals, the band Intervals, which is his favorite band. So we were like, of course, he's still one of our best friends to this day. He was just at our wedding a couple of weeks ago. But
that's awesome.
So we were like, yeah, dude, go do your thing. Be happy. We know you love that kind of music. So we kind of had a come to Jesus moment in our kitchen. I remember the discussion very clearly where we were like, we are going to go on as a duo. We're not going to because at that point we'd had so many changes in our band. And I think that is a common thing in bands, especially in like more technical bands like what we are. They change members a lot because people move on to do something else. They can't make enough money being in the band. Whatever. Life happens and people move on. So we were like, we're going to try to avoid doing the constant member change thing and just be a two-piece. So Navene had already had the first half of Time Will Take Us All written because we knew that we wanted it to be like, it is individual songs, but we wrote it as one piece of music, essentially. So if you listen to the record front to back, all of the songs flow into each other, and it's like one piece of music, like a true prog record.
I would say it's very prog.
Very prog.
I love it.
And that's why on the stuff we're releasing now, we were like, we're just writing all singles. We don't want to do another prog record. But so it was halfway written. Then in COVID, he finished it instrumentally. So Navene wrote all of it instrumentally, and he went and tracked drums at the beginning of 2020. So COVID happened, and we're like, holy shit, we can take some time off for the first time in the last like 5 or 6 years.
Oh, sure.
So let's chill and find some inspiration to write this record. Kind of like we just discussed what all of the things about the band we wanted to change. We were like, we want to change the look of the band. We want the aesthetic to be this. We want the art to be this. We really, the band started in 2015, but I feel like the band really, really started in 2020 because that's when we got this super focused vision of what we wanted the band to be, because all of a sudden it was just the two of us and we weren't throwing ideas around to 4 or 5 different people, and everyone has something different and everyone likes different kinds of music and different aesthetics and styles. So finally we just like reeled it in and we were like, this is what we want Entheos to be. This is it. And ever since then, that's what the band has been. So he finished it. Like I said, he tracked the drums, and then I believe it was 2021. I had started tracking vocals, and I had done this part. It's in the interior. The song is called The Interior Wilderness. It's the 3rd track on the album. And there's an ending part that has singing, and it was the first singing that we put on the record. And we were so fucking stoked about it that we were like, let's go party. So we went and partied, and we drove our e-scooters to party. Yeah.
That sounds like a party, huh?
Yeah, it was a real party until I ended up in the hospital.
Oh, God.
Because I crashed. So I crashed my scooter, and Navene was ahead of me. So he was home for like an hour, and I crashed about a block away from our house. And I don't really know what happened because when I crashed, I blacked out. And I must have landed on like a metal piece of something.
Oh, God.
And I split open, so my lip, you can see the scar, my lip up here was completely split open. You could see my teeth.
Oh my God.
My nose was completely knocked to the side. And it was like split up through here, like flayed. And
Shit.
right in here was ripped away from my like chin area to the point that my surgeon asked me if I'd had chin surgery because there was so much gravel
Oh my God.
embedded in my chin that he thought that it was an implant. Like he
What?
couldn't get to it.
Gosh.
And even now, like if I run my tongue around down here,
Does it
I
feel
can
rough?
feel the stitches, like where the stitches were. So
Oh.
I had like 110 stitches in my face.
Oh, see, and I read that.
Yeah.
And but I didn't know what happened.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's
wow.
awful.
How did you, were you by yourself? Did someone help you?
I was by myself. I blacked out. I don't know how long I blacked out
Holy
for.
shit.
When I woke up, I thought that it had rained because I was all wet.
Oh my God.
And what I realized when I got home, I had no idea anything happened. I just thought it had rained.
You were in shock.
Yeah, I was in
maybe.
shock. There was no pain, which is crazy. So I took my scooter home. I couldn't ride it. I just I walked it home. And Navene was hysterical, like crying, freaking out. And he's like, Chaney, like I've never seen him that freaked out.
Yeah.
Ever.
I'm sure you showed up and he probably had no idea what happened to you. That would have
Right.
been so scary. And you're just calm.
I was calm. Yeah. And I was like, did something happen to me? Because I had no idea. There
my
was no
God.
mirror in our living room.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was like,
Thank God.
you need to sit down on the couch, and was freaking out. And he had luckily, because he thought that someone had kidnapped me. So he had called the cops already.
Oh, wow.
So the ambulance arrived like 5 minutes after I got there. And the paramedics came in, and they have to ask like the normal stuff because they don't know if it's a domestic or what is going
Sure.
on. So they asked all the normal questions, and I was just like, am I going to die? Like, what? Am I going to be okay? And they were reassuring me that everything was fine. And it was the middle of COVID, so they took me to the hospital, and Navene could not come and see me. So Navene, this is why I love that man. I mean, there are many reasons why I love him, but he sat outside of the hospital for like 12 hours in the parking lot, just while he was exhausted, just like waiting to see what was going to happen to me.
Because he couldn't go inside.
Because he could not go inside. And I was just I was happy as can be because I was on morphine. I was just in there on morphine.
Just partying on morphine. Huh?
Partying. Had no idea what was going on, really.
You were like, you had probably the best situation at the time because you didn't know what happened. You
Yeah.
didn't see what happened. And now you're like, and I feel great right now.
Exactly.
Everything's like, well, that is something that I did not see coming. Man,
Wow, that is incredible.
Yeah, so e-scooters, I'm very against them. Absolutely, obviously, do not drink and get on an e-scooter because that's the dumbest shit that I've ever done in my entire life. Like,
But even if you don't, you know how many times I've seen people like get into, because I've worked downtown for such a long time.
yeah.
It's crazy. Like
Right.
they go really fast,
they go really fast. People totally underestimate them. And after I got into my accident, so many people told me about how they got in an accident on an e-scooter, or how a friend that they had gotten in an accident on one. So it's really common.
do you know what happened to you? Like, because you said you must have landed on something metal. Did you hit you don't know.
I don't know. I've driven past the place a million times trying to figure it out. And all that I can come to is that, they're like these metal parking guards that they have.
Yeah.
All that I can think is that I know if you if you overcorrect on the e-scooter, it will
You'll bite
it'll
it.
send you off. Yeah. So I'm assuming that I tried to overcorrect and just landed on a metal object. I remember the entire ride up until
That
point. Yeah. So
Wow.
so yeah, that was crazy. And I was in the hospital for like 24 hours because they had to wait on the best surgeon in Santa Cruz County because they're like, we're not going to let some random plastic surgeon do this girl's face.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Or good. Yeah. Absolutely.
So thank you to the Santa Cruz County, the Dominican hospital staff who did that for me. It was really scary. They wouldn't let me look in the mirror. And when I went into surgery, it's the only surgery I've had in my entire life. So I was totally scared out of my mind. And I was like crying as I was being put under and asking them if I was going to die. And it was a bad thing. But so it took me a while to heal from that, and I could not do vocals. I could barely open my mouth. Navene I was in bed for like 2 weeks, and Navene was just like spoon feeding me soup that his mom had made for me. So I existed on soup and like chocolate chip cookie dough for 2 weeks.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And,
well, they did a really good job because you can't tell.
Yeah, you can't tell at all.
I think they did a really good job.
Yeah.
I feel very lucky that they did. The silver lining of this entire thing is that 2 things happened. One is that the lyrical content for the album completely became about that. Time will take us all. I have it tattooed on my arm now. It's about just that we're all going to die, but what happens in the meantime is what's important. And the album became about that. The other thing that happened is that Evan Brewer, who is our bassist who started the band with us, he wasn't going to play on that album because he did not have enough time. He was building a studio in his house at the time, and he had a daughter. That's why he stopped touring with us. And he, because of my accident, he had the time to do the record.
Damn.
And I know this sounds crazy, but I would do it all over again to have that man on the record, because I just like Evan's bass playing. First of all, he's my favorite bass player in the entire universe. Like, he's incredible. And if anyone out there has not heard his solo albums, he is his like melodic sensibility is just incredible. Like, he's an amazing songwriter, and having him on the album just made the album what it is. The bass, there are a bunch of fretless bass parts on that record that are all Evan. And so
I need to brush up on my skills for this. I need to listen to some of the stuff he's done.
You absolutely should, because it's amazing. He's got a record called Alone. There's actually this particular video you should watch, which is called Evan Brewer 2 Basses, I believe. And it's Evan literally playing 2 basses. And so the first Animals as Leaders tour that I was talking about earlier, Evan was an opener on that tour. And we all traveled in a van together just because he was a solo artist and he was doing his own merch. And beyond that, he and Navene were in a band called Animosity together. So their musical relationship goes back like over 20 years. They've played together for a really long time. And
that's awesome.
I don't think that there's a drummer that complements Evan as well as Navene does, and I don't think that there's a bass player that complements Navene as well as Evan does. They just get each other. And Navene was he produced Evan's second solo record called Your Itinerary. Wow. Amazing records. He was in the Faceless. He's been in a bunch of bands. He's just amazing.
I think right now what we'll do is we'll take a little break, and I'm going to get some tools together, and we're going to go to the next part of this interview, which I'm going to teach you how to make a cocktail.
I'm so excited for this part.
I feel like
I've just been waiting for this part.
I think we're all ready for this part.
I think we need it.
We're all ready for a cocktail.
I feel like you're the type of person that like you kind of embrace like doing something different. You know what I mean? Like you seems like you don't shy away from it. So we're going to dive right into this, and I'm going to give you some tools, and it's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time.
Let's do it.
All right. I hope you like the drink though. We're going to find out how it tastes.
All right.
Okay. We'll be back.
Hey everybody, this is Michael J, and you are either listening to or watching Nashville on the Rocks.
Okay, all right, we are back in the studio, and we have some wonderful, things in front of us right now. We got some tools, we've got some liquor, we got some other fun ingredients. I just picked this up randomly, so I hope it's good. We're gonna give it a try. So we're gonna build this cocktail together. I'm gonna show you the steps along the way. So I know that we talked about this, and you like to drink tequila.
I do.
I also also like to drink tequila.
Woo.
I know, fun stuff.
Also low calorie, or it's low, there's low sugar content. All the CrossFitters, all the athletes drink tequila.
I think that's a good idea.
Low calorie.
Nice.
Low calories. You know what? I've heard that before, and I'm probably just so used to it now. But knowing me, I would come up with any reason to just drink tequila. So it might not have anything
We're
to do with
dieting.
it.
That's why we're drinking.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're doing right
It's
now.
a health thing, you know?
It's a health thing.
So, all right. So right now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna try this before. Now, someone gifted me this bottle, so they're not a sponsor of us, but that's cool. And I really like it. It's the 21 Seeds Cucumber Jalapeno Tequila. Did I say someone gifted me this bottle or vodka? Because I hope I said bottle.
No, you said bottle.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. We'll just keep that in there. Keep it in there. But yeah, so this is actually really neat. I'm kind of wary about like cucumber, but no one asked me. That's not the point. The point is that
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, they
It
make
does.
some good stuff. Okay, so what we're gonna do is you're gonna take this jigger, and I'm gonna take this one over here. Okay, so you have some ice. You're gonna mix your drink, and I'm gonna mix two. One for me and one for Dan. So
Thanks,
I'm
Bass.
glad you're trusting me with this
Oh,
because
it's gonna be fantastic.
that's how I know you don't know me that well yet, because no one else would.
You know what? I was like, it's one of those things where we
It's
can
rock
make.
and roll.
Yeah,
I'll just watch out for the gear.
Yeah, we could make the drinks, and then I could try. You could make a drink for me. Like I'll take the drink that you make, and then you can take the drink that I make. It'll be great.
Oh, all right.
She's like,
Let's
okay,
do
if
it.
you really want to do that, okay.
I think that's what we're gonna do.
That sounds great. Okay, so what we're gonna do right now
Okay.
is, because I'm doing 2 cocktails, so I'm gonna do twice the amount of you. Is we're gonna do 1.5 ounces of this tequila, which means I'm gonna do 3 ounces. So now you see the top right there. Do you see that, like, and the big side? Do you see this little line, this first line right here on the top?
Yes.
Okay, so you're gonna pour that up until that line, and that's 1.5 ounces.
Okay. Wait, so is 1.5 ounces like the standard amount of alcohol that you're putting into drinks?
For the most part, yes. Unless you do like usually like old fashions or like some of the bourbon cocktails or martinis, then you use 2.5 ounces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to
So
know.
it does smell really lovely. So, okay, so you're gonna pour that into here, and this is probably gonna be a little bit more boozier, but that's fine.
We
It'll be
love the
great.
booze.
We love the booze, and then we're gonna take this triple sec that I just pulled out of nowhere.
That was like a magic trick. I didn't even know that you brought that with you.
And we're gonna
That was a
flip.
good one, babe.
That was a good. And we're gonna flip it over to the small side.
All right.
And then there's same things. There's increments on this side as well. So you're gonna pour it up until this first line here, and that's 3/4 ounce.
Okay.
So this whole thing on the top is 1 ounce. And this
Gotcha.
whole one is 2. It's kind of a very useful tool.
Yeah, this is rad because I just see these lines and I'm like, they must have messed up and got like a line, a deeper line in that part of the thing.
Yeah, more than the others.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
No, it's perfect. And then, so this is lime juice. This is fresh squeezed lime juice. We're going to pour like about 1/2 ounce in here. So up until the middle line right there.
Cool.
And that is for you. And you don't have to like do fresh squeezed lime juice. Like you can get them at the liquor store or whatnot. You know, you can buy it pre-made. I wouldn't be a bartender if I bought my lime juice, but sometimes
I was going to ask about that because I do have some lime juice in my fridge.
Perfect.
I didn't know if that was a faux pas, but
Oh,
and it
no.
apparently is.
Oh no, yeah, it's definitely right.
Lisa's saying it's a total faux pas. Do not, you dare serve me a drink that has
Store-bought lime
juice, and it's a big thing of it too. So
big
you know
jug.
it's gonna be in there for like a year.
Oh my god.
Oh,
you know what?
man.
It's gonna be great. I'd still drink it. I probably wouldn't even know the difference. All right, so you're gonna pour, because I'm making 2, I'm gonna pour this up to here. You're gonna pour it up until this line right here. So that 3/4 line, and this is a jalapeno simple. So I made this.
Oh.
Yes. I took
Okay, to this one.
yeah, to the top part right there.
Gotcha.
Yes. So this is sweet and spicy. This is really super easy to make. I don't know if you like to do a lot of like cooking or stuff like that.
I do. I actually made some salsa verde just today.
Okay.
I love making stuff.
You are definitely more advanced in that department than I am. I've never made salsa verde.
Very easy. Very easy.
Well, so this is super cool because this is just like a 1-to-1 ratio. That's how you make simple. And then you put the jalapenos in afterwards. I mean, you can put them in during the time and then you wait until it's green, until like it'll turn green.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's how you know it's done when they start to get all like shriveled, like disgusting okra, you know what I mean? All slimy. Not slimy, but they look that color within like 5-10 minutes of boiling it. Or you can just put them in afterwards and let them steep for like a half hour.
So it's 1-to-1 water, sugar?
That's it.
And then you boil it for how long?
You boil it until it dissipates.
And then
So
you
all the
throw a
sugar goes.
jalapeno in,
Throw the
wait for it to
jalapenos
get
in
green.
it.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yep.
I'm going to be doing that.
It'll be
Very
fun.
cool.
Yeah.
And so then afterwards, just make sure you take the jalapenos out because the longer you leave it in, the stronger it gets. If you make the simple sugar ahead of time and then like you throw the jalapenos in it when it's off the burner, then I would leave it in there for like a half hour. If you're making it in the time all together, about 5-10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, super easy. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take this small lid.
Here's
it
the
right at
hard
the top.
part.
It's gonna be so good. It goes right in there. Feel it?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna shake it.
Okay. All right.
This is my favorite
Wish
part.
me luck.
This is gonna be great. Okay, ready? We're gonna do this for like 10
In
I want to
time.
do it the bartender way too. Can you show me how exactly you shake?
Yeah, I do it like this. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, just hold on to the top. It'll be good. All right, let's go.
And it all gets cold.
Yeah, it gets really cold.
Strenuous. I don't know how you guys do this a million times a night.
It's so
Shoulders,
metal.
strong shoulder muscles. All right, you feel how that's all nice and cold?
Oh, yeah, it's
like
freezing.
it's frozen. Okay, so there's a seal at the top of it, so we're gonna have to like, I have faith in you. You're gonna bang
Oh,
it a
yeah,
couple
I've
times.
seen bartenders do this.
Yes, and then you take it right off. See,
I'm so proud of myself
I'm
right now.
so proud of you too.
Thank you.
See, I knew you could do it because I was like, she's not gonna back down from a challenge. She's
No,
got this.
never.
Okay, so we can just pour this right into the glasses,
Okay.
which is super cool. Or you could pour it over fresh glasses. I mean, fresh ice. I don't think that really matters.
Because usually you
margaritas.
strain stuff out.
That's right, with the strainers. But this is like, I kind of like using the ice with the margarita that's already been in the tin. I think it tastes fine. But for dilution purposes, like if you're doing other cocktails, like martinis, for example, you'd want to strain it out.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
So for us, we're just gonna pour it right in. Pour Dan's in.
Thanks, babe.
You're welcome.
Oh,
And then I'm gonna top us up with this random dragon fruit mango stuff that I got at the store that I thought looked really neat. Oh, it's clear. I thought it was gonna be pink.
I thought it was gonna be pink too.
Damn. Okay.
Lame.
Lame.
We're just gonna imagine that it's pink.
Right. We're gonna imagine that it's pink.
Should I put more? All
You can put however much you want in it.
right, I'm excited about that stuff. It sounds really good.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I didn't make this simple green, was because I thought if I put pink together and had the green simple syrup, it was going to be gross. But yeah, I didn't have to do that. Okay, we're good. All right, you want to take mine? I'll take yours?
Yes.
All right, God, I hope this is good because I haven't tried it yet. I haven't even tried this cocktail
I'm
in general
really excited.
yet. Here, babe. Yeah. You take this one. Okay, ready?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Bam.
I love it. All right, there we
All right,
go.
Let's do it.
Oh, that's fucking delicious.
Wow.
I love that.
That is
I
really
didn't
good.
expect that.
I really
I mean,
like that.
Yay!
Oh,
I don't think I've ever had anything like this, baby.
you guys should make
really
it.
fresh.
Everyone listening.
It could be a cocktail that we make next week at the party.
Oh, yes.
That could be cool. Yeah, this is really tasty.
Super
So-
good. It's got like it's got that perfect spice to it that I love in a tequila
Mm-hmm.
cocktail. And then the dragon fruit, the pop of fruit in it is
Yeah,
just
that's
a
lovely.
great accent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not
it works
too
well.
strong, and maybe it's good that we only put like a little, like
You know what it reminds me of?
you put a lot of it in.
Kind of reminds me of like when you mix corn and tuna. doesn't it? You know, like on a pizza, it's like amazing.
That's my favorite kind of pizza, actually. every time I order a pizza, I'm like, if you do not put corn and fucking tuna on that pizza, I'm not eating it.
I'm not eating it at all.
I will not eat it.
I'm telling you, I can't believe that's not a huge choice. Number one, choice in pizzerias around the country.
You know what pisses me off is when we're touring in Europe, they actually do like corn and tuna on pizza. It's a thing there for some reason. And inevitably, if we get pizza ordered to us after the show, there will be at least 2 or 3 corn and tuna pizzas. And then
what the fuck
that is
all
weird,
that?
Man.
Yeah, so if you're the last person to get to the pizza after everyone's devoured all the cheese and pepperoni and the good kinds, you're totally screwed.
We definitely want to dive into your music and the albums that you've created with Entheos. Can I just ask you, you guys came out with an album in 2017?
Yes, I think it was 2016. So we put out an EP. Our first release was an EP in 2015, and then and then we put out an album in 2016. That was our first album.
And then you guys were still making music and whatnot. I mean, I know COVID and everything happened. Is there a reason why it took a while to get your next album out?
So, The Infinite Nothing. So we put out The Infinite Nothing in 2016. Then I believe Dark Future came out in late 2017 or 2018. And then between that and Time Will Take Us All, it took, I don't know, 5 years. Jesus. Wow. Mm-hmm. So the reason it took so long, the accident was a huge part of it. And like what I was talking about, just the deciding to make our band into a 2-piece, the way that we present our band is as a 2-piece. Obviously, we go and play live with a full band. It's not just 2 people. But Navene Navene writes all of the music. He plays all the guitars on the albums.
That's crazy.
And Evan is our studio bass player. Evan did officially quit the band at some point because he had a kid. He has a daughter who is like a niece to Navene and I. Evan lives 5 minutes away from us, and we see him all the time. And like I was talking about earlier, our relationship with Evan is far more than just a guy who is the bass player of our band who we can replace really easily because people can play. We have a really personal relationship with him and his wife and his daughter. That's our family. And so we haven't really felt comfortable finding a replacement. We'd rather just wait until he's ready to go back on tour and play with us.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So because of all of that stuff, that all kind of happened in the interim between Dark Future and Time Will Take Us All. And we just made the decision that we wanted to present the band as the people who you would see at every single show. We don't want there to be, I find that it happens in metal, or just in bands, period, that there will be a band picture and then you go and see the band live and it's only one of those people is there.
Yeah.
So we didn't want there to be that confusion with our band. We bring out live players. We had a couple of guys play with us for 2 years. Rob Brown and Brian James. They played with us for 2 years, and now we have hired new people to start playing with us this summer. Michael Stansel and Andrew Virawetta. Michael Stansel is in a band called Allegion. Andrew Virawetta has a band called Interloper, but he tours with another band called Ingested. Anyway, this is the long way of saying that it took us 5 years to figure out where we wanted to go with the band.
That makes sense. Because
there was a very Navene and I both came to a point in the band and in playing with other people, not Evan, just playing with other people and their influences. We were we're not happy doing this. We don't feel like the band is going in a direction that we really want it to go in. So there was honestly a point where I was just I'm okay with moving on to another project. I didn't feel like the band was what I wanted, it was going in a direction that I wanted to do, because there was, like I said, we had written the first half of Time Will Take Us All, Navene had written it. And there was a mixed feeling between the 3 members who were in the band at that point, us and Travis, where Travis didn't want to play stuff that was that death metal and that techie. So he kind of wanted us to write something that we didn't want to write, and we just came to the conclusion that it was probably for the best for us to part ways.
Sure.
So that 5 years was just it was like a growth process for the band. And the flip side of that is that now we can't stop writing music. So Time Will Take Us All came out last year. We've put out 2 singles so far this year. We have another one coming out with an announcement of a release in like 2 or 3 weeks.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and we worked with Mark Lewis, who is a dear friend of ours, a great producer. He's worked with Whitechapel and a lot of other bands that people know about. Undeath. He's working with Havoc. There are a lot of bands that do. Black Dahlia. He just did the new Black Dahlia Murder.
Okay.
So yeah, we now have this like. What we're putting out now is the first stuff that we went to Mark's from the ground level, and he produced it all with us. Like we went to him with songs, and he was just there to kind of be like the mediator between me and Navene, and figure out like just give his advice on what sounds good. Mark is really good on like cutting the bullshit out of bands. And we wanted to write like really, really strong singles. That's what we decided to do with this release. And we're planning on going back to him at the end of the year. That's kind of what we're trying to do from here forward. Working with him just created something that we're so proud of that we want to see what happens next and keep going in that direction. So it'll never be 5 years before we put something out again.
I just want to, interject, as a nerdy producer, like writer guy, and who loves music. The process is really cool to me, what you're talking about. As far as evolving, and it's almost like you're developing your own voice within the band or the duo writing that you got going on.
Yeah.
Where it keeps getting honed. And I just remember feeling more and more confident as you keep on going, where you know what you're good at, you know what you want, you know where you want to go. And it's cool in the beginning, and tell me if you agree with this. It's cool in the beginning when you're with a bunch of talented people, and it's more like a democracy because everybody gets their say, and being in a democracy is awesome. But then you were saying you kind of wanted to do different types of things.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a while to figure out what you want to do. So when you're writing, what is your process as far as Navene comes up with the instrumental stuff, and does he have you as a vocalist in mind to sing on top of it, or is it just like a tapestry, a blank canvas where he loves what you do, he trusts what you do with his music? Like, where is the connection between you guys writing together? You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
absolutely. So yes, he 100% has me in mind, and that's something that's been developed over time. Navene tracked drums on Whitechapel's album The Valley. And he did that with Mark, and that was kind of like a catalyst in us moving to Nashville. That's a different story, but doing that, so Whitechapel is very focused. Phil Bozeman is their vocalist, and Whitechapel cares the way that they write, they recognize that the vocals are a huge standout of their band, and they write to cater to the vocals. And, when Entheos started, Navene was he was in Animals as Leaders. That's an instrumental project. He had his own solo project. Evan had a solo project. Travis was from Scale the Summit, an instrumental band. Frank Costa, who's our first guitar player, hadn't played in a band since 2007 when we started. So he had gone 8 years without really writing metal. So at the beginning, I was not really it was what you're talking about, where it was like, all right, we're just going to trust you to write over our music. And I felt more like I was writing over like a musical instrumental project for Primal and Infinite Nothing and Dark Future. Granted, there were vocal moments, of course. There are vocal moments in music like that. But with Time Will Take Us All, we really started, he learned from Whitechapel and brought that into our recording process. Like, we need to be writing for Chaney's vocals because the vocalist is the person who people pay attention to in the band. Like, that's who most people, that's what catches you, brings you into a band. It's the vocalist and the lyrics. And I think that sometimes in like technical metal, people get very lost in the instrumentation and the guitar playing and don't pay a lot of attention to the vocals. And I think that's why it's not as accessible of a genre, because the bands that you do see get big in technical death metal, like the Faceless, they're writing songs where the vocals are a standout point.
I could see that.
Right.
So the answer to your question is that it used to be that way, but since time will take us all, since we had that moment I talked about in our kitchen, where we decided where the band would be going, and ever since then, we've written to cater to the vocals. The vocals are the most important thing in our band, and it becomes more of that over time. As I have become more of a confident front person, at the beginning of this band, I joined a band. Yes, Navene had been my boyfriend for 4 or 5 years at that point, but I was also in a band with 3 people who were like fucking metal celebrities to me. Like when Navene and I met, I told him how much I loved he did a solo project with he wrote all of the instruments, but the vocalist of Job for a Cowboy, Johnny Davey, was the vocalist on that. And I was absolutely in love with that record.
Oh, wow.
Flesh Rot, Dementia, Dyslexia. And so I really looked up to these people.
Sure.
And I was very shy about my place in the band. I was new to being in a signed band, to being in a band with heavy hitters, people who I thought were gods of their instruments. So I just wanted them to I was just not even trying to interfere in that stuff. And now I'm a much different person. Now I'm a much different vocalist. I'm much more confident in my position, and I know exactly what I want. So when it comes to writing, Navene will write stuff and I'll come up with vocal ideas, and I'll also just be in there with him while he's writing. And if he writes something that's a little too crazy, I'm like, dude, we're cutting that. I don't know what I'm going to do over that. And if stuff doesn't come naturally to me, then I tend to think that it's not the best thing it's not what we should be doing.
Sure.
I want our music, I want what I do to never sound forced. I never want it to sound like I'm just bullshitting my way through a part because I don't know what to do there. Yeah. So Navene and I work very closely, obviously, because we live together. I can be in his studio constantly listening to what he's writing, and we will write parts to cater to my vocals. He's learned over time, he knows exactly what I want to sing over. So then the goal becomes, all right, we need to make a song that includes the type of music, what Chaney would sing over, that's done in the Entheos style. Because Navene's got a very distinct voice musically. If you listen to all of our music, just the choices of chords and progressions and his sense of melody, it all belongs to Navene, and it's very obvious. And you can hear it in Flesh Rot as well. So the Entheos thing will always be there because Navene sounds instrumentally a certain way, Evan sounds instrumentally a certain way, and I sound vocally a certain way. It's just our goal to kind of fit all of these influences together in a good package, but also police each other. Stuff that I used to let them get away with instrumentally, they don't get away with that anymore. And stuff that I used to get away with vocally, I don't get away with it anymore. We've become, because the more that you work with someone, I think that's a beautiful part of being in a band long term. And I hate when bands break up when they're young, because I feel like they never really get to the good stuff.
Yeah, they never really found their voice yet.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
that's true.
and just to relate with what you're saying, I've been in a band all my life playing music with my brother. And so we've been vibing for years, and we just so happen to be fortunate to know 2 other brothers who know how to vibe like me and my brother did. And then we got together and we just so happened to vibe together.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was with family for years, and we all can finish each other's sentence and, like you were saying, maybe hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
And we all know what we like, and it's one vision,
Absolutely.
And it's and that's when it becomes most, I think, most potent and where you connect with the audience. and the honesty behind it, where you're not forcing everything like you were saying.
That's
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. I agree with that. And I think that also to add another person into the mix, like I think that whoever is producing your material, it's important to stay with them. If you find a person who you enjoy working with, who you think is helping get the best stuff out of you, which is how I feel about Mark Lewis. I can't say enough great things about that guy. Then I think it's important to also stay with them, because as far as our band goes, Mark is like an uncredited member of our band.
He understands your vision.
I love that.
Absolutely. He understands the vision, and you know, a lot of metal, at least in what I do, because there are obviously, you know, metal is a really vast term at this point. There are a million genres under that. So in the kind of metal that I play, we've entered a realm of stuff being super like overly processed, and there's a production style that lacks dynamics, so everything becomes kind of like mixed and mastered to a point where even if there are dynamics in the music, everything sounds so processed that you can't like tell that it's dynamic. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like, so you'll be in take our record. If Time Will Take Us All was produced or mixed or mastered in that way, it was using like Superior Drummer and a boxed amp, and my vocals were super processed, and it had like this like modern gent production style. It's like djenty metalcore production style, where it's like there will be a super heavy part, and then it'll go into more of a feely like dynamic part, but audibly that just doesn't translate. Like, you don't understand, your brain can't compute that it's a dynamic part. Whereas Mark, like, his goal is to make bands sound like the best version of the band, not to over process the band and run it all through this like box production treatment. And
it gives you a more realistic feel.
You know,
absolutely.
and it's another dimension. As a producer, I totally know exactly what you're talking about. It's like when things are really overcompressed.
Yeah, there we go, overcompressed.
And then you have all the quiet parts as loud as all the heavy parts that are coming in with the impacts and all this stuff like that. It makes it one volume, and it takes away that whole dimension of being three-dimensional. It's like you got the volume going up and down, right?
Yeah.
But you also need the space where something comes from a distance, and then you need something that comes from right here in your face. Like
precisely.
You need all that stuff. So I know what you're talking about when you say boxed, you know, productions, and it's claustrophobic, and there's no room in there.
Yeah, and you almost don't feel like you're listening to a band. And our goal really is to have. I'm a sucker for fantastic production. I like really good production, but I still like when bands sound like bands. Mm-hmm. Like, and especially with someone like Navene on drums, where Navene's drumming style isn't like a canned drumming style. He's got chops. He's like a really choppy, kind of feely death metal drummer. And it would be doing him a total disservice to take that and to wipe out all of the dynamics, because that kind of makes everyone sound like the same drummer.
I could see that.
But all of this to say that I just really feel like Mark is a really integral, important piece of our band. And to me, he's a member that you don't see on stage. He's not listed as a member of Entheos, but he's definitely the hidden member of Entheos, along with our team, of course. But Mark has really helped us like achieve the vision, and is continuing to help us achieve the vision, and just like even talking to him about what we're gonna do next, because he knows our style now, and he's like ready to dial us in. So I'm really excited to hear what we put out like next year and the year after, because like I said, the coolest part about being in a band is growing and seeing how you become more and more of a unit over time.
That is the coolest thing, man, being in a band, I think, what you just said.
I love it.
Yeah.
You know, and the hope of the future of like what music will be, and evolving, and just being, you know, reaching the potential that you haven't even reached yet.
Yeah.
Is exciting, I think, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't you think, babe? Sorry, I've been totally cutting my wife out of this whole thing.
I'm good.
I got all nerdy and shit. Sorry,
we're getting in the weeds.
I'm just like, and for those of you that aren't watching this, if you're listening to us only, I'm just going back and forth, like listening with agreeing as like everything goes along. No, I love this. I think that that's great. And you both talk about it so well. You both describe it. So for people that maybe aren't in bands, they can understand that too. You know what I mean?
You know what?
Yeah.
And
Like,
just
you
to
make it
add
easy for
one
people.
more nerdy little thing. It's like when I listen
All right,
to
one more.
All right, just one more thing.
Only one more.
But like
We're counting.
But what we're talking about is like the missing piece, I think, in a lot of music where people have a hard time connecting to the actual artist. You know, it's like when I listen to music, I listen to the lyrics and I just listen to the vibe and I listen to like, are they reaching their goals?
Yeah.
And it makes you connect to the artist that much more when it's coming from them in an honest way and it's captured in an honest way. So it's like, I think you guys have all that going. And that's all I really want to say about it. It just sounds like honest and with integrity and unapologetic, man. And it matters
you.
in metal and rock, you know? And,
I agree.
And you could tell when it's not legit.
When it's phoned
you know what
in.
I'm saying?
And
So-
you know, there are a lot of people who are phoning it in out there, but there are also a lot of people who are not. There are a lot of like amazing fucking musicians in metal, and I'm so proud to be a part of this scene at this time with all of this technology, and you can choose to use it and you can choose to, you know, go a little more old school, and it's cool to have all of the options. It's a really cool time for music.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like to look at it that way. I'm excited for the future of metal.
You know, it's refreshing to know that. I'm sorry, babe. I keep doing this to you. I keep
good.
taking over the mic. I'm just so fascinated. You know.
If I had something to say, you know, I talk, I get in there.
You just got to let me get mine, babe.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When you hear people talk like, you know what, I would never, you know, the music isn't like when I was a kid. You know, it makes them kind of sound old. And then I can't remember who told me this though, but like when Mozart was coming out, you know, all his contemporaries were like, dude, this Mozart guy's using this thing called the piano, man. Why isn't he using a harpsichord?
Right.
He's not legit.
Of course.
He's cheating with the harpsichord. You know what I'm saying? So it's like in Prince, you know, all these kind of like guys that are really great composers and songwriters, they always use what's available and they master it.
Absolutely.
You know?
And there are always going to be people like back in my day. But I can't remember if we were talking about this before the podcast or on the podcast, but I really believe in we were talking about like when video became a thing, when playthroughs became a thing. I think we were talking about it before the podcast. But I really believe in like moving with the times, because
Yeah.
I think that if you don't, you get stuck in being that person. And it just reminds me of people who haven't like listened to any new music since they were in high school.
Yeah.
If you look around, there's a lot of beautiful stuff going on in the world. There's a lot of great music happening. There's a lot of cool technology. There are amazing musicians. There are amazing bands. And you just kind of have to like view the positive side of it rather than going with the negative. Yeah, you know what? It might be kind of cringy to put yourself on the internet and like do a video of yourself screaming. But guess what? You're going to make your band a hell of a lot bigger if you do. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's a double-edged sword. Like I had to get over that. I had to get over the thinking that it was kind of cringe to put myself on the internet screaming and to like, you know, do the thing. But it's helped us so much more to be willing to accept what the newer generations are doing and just moving along with that than to like refuse to play the game.
Sure.
And I see a lot of people that I know who still refuse to play the game, and they're also mad that their band isn't as big as they want it to be. Mm-hmm. So I think that there are steps you can take, but sometimes we let like the gatekeeper musician person that exists in all of us, because we're all metalheads and we all have that gatekeeper sensibility. Believe me, it's a voice that exists in my head. Sometimes we just have to tell that voice to shut the fuck up and
Just go.
Just go. Just do.
Because you know what always happens is it seems like the more time that passes by, you look back and you're like, I can't believe I didn't do that.
I know.
Or it's all like that relative thing where it's just like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Could a billion people be wrong? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It's very rarely that you think about it afterwards and you're like, oh man, I wish I didn't do that. Because you have so many. Probably the first time you put yourself out there and showed a video of you screaming, I'm sure that like maybe you were nervous at the same time, but then you probably had so much positive come from it almost probably immediately with people reaching out and being excited about what you were doing.
Oh, yeah.
And
yes.
then you gain more followers with your band and more people that are interested in your music, and then they're going to support you and you get to share this with them. And I think that probably went away after that.
It absolutely did. I think that a lot of people let what they think other people will say about what they're doing, they let that defeat them.
Yeah.
I don't care what other people say about what I'm doing. I just care. Like, I am not the type of person who can get like a regular job and be happy doing that. What I care about, literally the thing that I care about in my life is that I can be on my deathbed and I can look back and know that I did my damnedest. I worked my hardest to pursue my dream, to live a happy life and to do something that I was proud of. And you know, whether or not it made me as much money as it would make me to be in the corporate world, I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. I care about being happy. And everything that I do in my life is a step toward my own happiness. So if that means that I'm putting videos on the internet to like help get exposure for my band, then I'm gonna do it. I don't give a shit.
That's awesome.
I'm too old to care. You know, I'm too old to care about that stuff. All that I care about is being happy.
Yeah.
And that's my constant pursuit in life, and I will do whatever I can to pursue my dreams and to be happy. And that's what it's all about.
That is a wonderful way to express it. But that's just a wonderful mindset to have.
And everybody should have that
Everybody
mindset.
should have that.
I think so, yeah.
Regardless of if it's music or if it's art or maybe not even art or just doing something different in general, I respect that so much. And I think more people need to have that. I think a lot of people want to have that, but maybe don't know how to. So that's a huge inspiration.
I think that's so true. I mean, just have a conversation with, go and talk to 10 people. Chances are 6 of them are going to have a job that they hate.
Yeah.
And that they have something in their mind, because I always ask my friends who are complaining about their job, I'm like, what would you love to do? What would you be happy doing in this life? They always have something, but they're always scared. I have a mortgage, I have a car payment, I have a this or that. Yeah, man, we all have that. But if you are not happy in your situation and you have something in your mind that you want to do, just take 5 minutes a day.
Right.
5 minutes a day to work toward that goal, because you're not doing yourself any service being unhappy. You're not doing your friends any service, because we're sick of hearing about it. It's like, just take a step, because people love being like, I would really like to do this, but there's this and this and this. Dude, forget about all that shit. It doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. No. Your bills don't matter. It matters to a certain extent, but you know what? You will figure it out.
Yeah.
If you decided to pursue something and you didn't necessarily have enough money to pay your bills that month, you will figure it out. I promise you. Because if you have had the wherewithal to get to this point in life and to have the mortgage and the car payment and whatever, you're probably a decently smart person who can figure out how to pay for that shit.
Well, and that's something I was just
totally agree.
No, that's something I was just about to say too, is that a lot of people get tripped up on just once you take that first step and then a next step and a next step and a next step, you usually figure that part out.
Yeah.
It's just letting go of what a lot of people think.
And you know what?
I know.
And one thing, you got to avoid all those people that you know.
The naysayers.
The
Yeah,
naysayers that
you
like
do.
just don't want you to succeed, and it sucks. And maybe they don't even know that they're that way with you, and they love you, and they're your friend. But like, you kind of gotta like believe in yourself. And sometimes people they need a little help to believe in themselves. You know what I'm saying? They need
Absolutely.
a little. So, but yeah, it's like you just kind of gotta do what you feel. You live once.
You
know?
have to.
You
And
live once.
I promise you, every single person has the naysayers. You know how many people I've had to tell, how many people have told me, you're not going to be able to make a living off of screaming. You better figure something else out. And I'll be like,
Okay.
you better, there's no fucking way I'm not making a living off of screaming. So
Did you scream it to their face when you said, "Fuck you"?
yeah. I should have. But you have to, tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Tunnel vision to
Well,
your dreams.
And that's the rebelliousness too. That's the fearlessness of all that goes into music. And I think any kind of music has that, but rock in general, metal, it's so much more about just being authentic and being yourself. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think that's why, I know that's why I gravitate to it. I think that's why a lot of people gravitate to it,
Yeah.
You have a tour coming up that you're leaving for next week,
Yes.
right?
I
Or is
do.
it the week after? Around that time?
I start practicing next week and I'm leaving on the 5th. So yeah, in about a following week.
So when this episode comes out, it's probably going to come out after you're on tour. So
Okay.
mention it to you guys. If you're listening to this right now, check out Entheos on tour, because you guys are going on a 2-month tour, right?
Yeah. It's about a month and a half. Yeah. So we're doing a bunch of headlining dates and then we are going on tour with As I Lay Dying in Chelsea Grin. And
That's
it's
awesome.
going to be insane.
Awesome.
I can't believe it. Yeah.
Do you have any place that you're really excited to go to?
I'm just excited to be on tour.
Love it.
I've been planning a wedding for the past 2 months of my life and I'm sick of it. I'm a metal vocalist, man. I'm not a bride. I'm sick of this shit. I'm excited to play everywhere. We're playing my hometown, Des Moines.
Lovely.
I love playing there. We're playing Santa Cruz. It starts in Santa Cruz, so our whole
sweet.
family will be there. Denver's the best place to play metal in the United States to me.
Really?
So,
Okay.
yeah. I wish it was coming to Nashville, but
Well, we'll have to. Well, you guys, you had a show in Nashville this past year, right?
yeah, we played with Whitechapel at Marathon last year, and
That's
then we
awesome.
did a show with Revocation at Eastside Bowl.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
that's
they
right
were
up the
both
road from
sick.
us.
Yes.
Well, the next time you come to Nashville, that you guys play, we're gonna be there, because we haven't. Obviously, we haven't caught you live yet. So, but the good thing is because you can see, guys, if you're picking up what we're telling you, I always have to say, for those of you that aren't watching this, for those of you who are just listening only, you can watch a lot of your shows. You can watch a lot of things on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
You have a huge social media presence. I think that's great.
Yeah, it's it honestly came about in COVID, It was just out of necessity and it changed the entire trajectory of my band's career. So I'm forever grateful to social media.
Do you have any new bands that you're listening to right now?
What have I been listening to right now? Honestly, most of what I listen to is old stuff. But one person that I want to talk about, and I know that this is a Nashville show, so Marissa Nadler is probably my favorite singer in the entire world. She lives in Nashville. She's playing a show at the Blue Room. I think it's July 14th. I'm so bummed that I will not be there. She's playing her album July in full, which is one of my favorite albums of all time.
Oh, cool.
So everyone, if you guys are in Nashville and you're interested in singer-songwriters, go and see Marissa Nadler play, because
Check her
she's absolutely incredible. Yeah, check her out.
That's awesome. All
Very
right, we'll have
cool.
to give her a listen. I love that. Well, that's the thing. I love all the music that comes through here. I know that I'm a rock chick, but I love everything, and just whatever my ear gravitates to, I just go to.
Same.
You know what I mean?
I have a metallic heart, but I just like anything that's like sad.
Yeah,
I like super
emotional.
Yeah,
it makes
super
you feel
emotional.
something.
Yeah, I gotta feel.
Is there like any main advice that you would give like a band that was starting out now?
A band that's starting out now, to reiterate, get on the internet for sure. Practice, play shows, figure out what's special about your band and hone in on that, because there are a lot of bands who sound the same.
That's true.
And we want to hear some new stuff. Mm-hmm. Us metalheads, we're waiting for something new. And just keep going. Really, like, you're going to face a million bumps in the road. I promise you. People are going to tell you you suck. People are going to tell you that you can't be signed. You're not worth anything. That there's always another band that they're going to be talking about in the industry. And then a lot of the time that band 5 years from now, no one knows who they are. Mm-hmm. So just going back to the tunnel vision thing. If you really care about it, if you really work hard at it, if you keep going, you're going to succeed. I can guarantee you.
I love that.
That's it.
Right on.
Right on. That's great. Chaney, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been such a great interview. I've been geeking out leading up to this point, geeking out during half of this interview at least. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. And guys, check her out. Check out the band. Yeah.
Put all the socials, and we'll do all the all the links, whatever. We'll put up there. And
we'll put it on as it comes along. And yeah, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This was as great. It was even greater than I imagined, which I had high expectations and they were
Hell
exceeded.
yes.
So.
We're really doing it, babe.
Yeah, you're doing it.
We're doing it.
Nashville on the rocks, baby.
Right on.
All right. Cheers, guys. Thank you. Hey, you've just watched or listened to another episode of Nashville on the Rocks. If you like what we do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And don't forget to follow us on all of our socials and on your favorite podcast streaming apps. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.